Welcome to Impact 2024, our continuing conversation where we talk about all different types of things, types of topics, from current events, from race to religion to just what's going on out here in the world. And it is our safe place, your safe place and my safe place to have a conversation uh, where you can say, pretty much what you want. And you do that through typing in your questions and your comments into the comments section, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or you're on the internet. You type it into the comment section. It's going to pop up. We're going to see it and we're going to address it. So feel free to type in your comments. Feel free to type in your opinions. Feel free to say if I'm saying something crazy that you totally disagree with, or chime in and just say whatever. As long as it's not crazy, it's coming up on the screen and we're going to address it. So this is a conversation. So this is your opportunity to join in and to put in your 2 cents. And so we can just go ahead and get started into our topic for today. It's funny. I don't know whether or not people are just all on the same page, but some of the times the topics that we're getting ready to do here, I'll hear on television. I hear somebody else doing it, or I hear it on the radio or something like that. And so I don't know if somehow they're listening to me and taking my ideas, or if I'm taking their ideas, or we're just predicting one another, or it's just what's going on in the world. But sometimes you see some things out here. And one of the ones the topic that we were going to do today, and one of the programs I was seeing was saying the same thing. And it's about the fact that people now, and most of it's due to the pandemic, are further away from each other than before. It's due to the pandemic, it's due to some housing issues where housing is much, much more expensive and people have to move further out in order to find things that they can afford. And as a result, we've become more of a transient society. We travel a lot more than we used to. People used to live in the neighborhood and go to school in the neighborhood, go to church in the neighborhood, go to the stores that are in the neighborhood. Now it's travel. It is significantly travel. And so what was reserved for people who lived out in the country, or the sticks, or the boondocks, or whatever you called it, is now something that's more of a commonplace. More and more people have large commutes, an hour or 2 hours just to get to work, an hour to get to a major shopping area, 30 minutes to just get to a grocery store. We used to complain about places being food deserts. Now that is more so the norm. You're having a little, because of the amount of commute. I remember when I was a little bit younger, I would go down to Georgia, and I was like, man, I can't believe people live out here, because so many people lived on the outskirts of the city in these little tiny subdivisions, and they took long commutes into the city to go to work, or long commutes to be able to go to a place where there were, stores that you could go to. And now, as much as I criticized or was wondering about Georgia, that has now become the norm in many, many places. Here in Virginia, one of the biggest is the D.C. area. A lot of people live in Washington, a lot of people work in Washington, D.C., but Washington, D.C., as everyone knows, is not that large. And many of the people commute. They commute from places like Fredericksburg, which could be 30 to 45 minutes away, or Stafford, or Richmond, Virginia, which is at least an hour and 45 minutes away, even on your best day, and even further into other cities. And people are making these long commutes, long in distance and long in time. And as of 2020, when the pandemic occurred, many people were working from home. And now as people start to, go hybrid or even go all the way back to work, 2020 encouraged people to be able to move away and move out and go wherever you want to go. And they still live in those places far away. And so now if they're going back into the office, they have to make that long commute. And so that has become more of the norm. And it's probably going to continue to be that way, especially with the fact of, if you want affordable housing, it is harder to live in the county, the city, than it ever has been. You have to go out into the country, as they say. You have to go way out in order to be able to get something that you can afford for many people. Unless you just have, a large amount of money, an outstanding job, you can get it wherever you want to go. But even then, people want to get a little bit more land, or they want to get a little bit more value. And the way to get value is to move further and further away. And so that's what a lot of people are doing. Why are we talking about this? Why is it important? That's always a question that we do every single week. The reason that we teed up that long intro is when we think about community, when we think about what we're doing here in church, in faith, in our faith community, and we're talking about church, we have to remember that one of the things that we talk about, and when we talk about here, especially at Imani, is we talk about building relationships, building community. Well, it's difficult to have community when you live far, far away. It's not, most of us nowadays don't go to the neighborhood church. You don't go to the church closest to your home. And so that you can just go to church, you can go home, and go back to church again. It's not that far away. You might have a 5-10 minute commute. No. I don't know how it is where you live, but I know how it is where I live. And many people are going all the way from one side of the town to the next to get to the church that they like, which is what you should be doing in a sense. You should be going where you like, where you fit in, where it's comfortable. However, when you are going halfway across town, it's hard to go back home. When you're going halfway across town, sometimes it's hard to get there during the week. And you have to have a high level of commitment. And unfortunately, what we've seen over the years is that level of commitment amongst people when it comes to church has gone down, not up. And so what are we talking about? Well, we're going to be community. And if we're going to be in a relationship and people are further and further away, how do we combat that? The easiest thing to be is, hey, man, everybody needs to start going back to community churches in your neighborhoods, things like that. Well, that's not, I would say that off top, that's not practical or reasonable for most people. You don't know necessarily whether or not you're going to have a church in your community that fits your needs, that fits your lifestyle, that fits what you want. If you have a church in your community and it's an older church, a traditional church, you are a younger person and you are non-traditional, it may not fit for you. And so you're going to have to travel. If you're somebody who wants a particular type of denomination and that denomination is not in your area, it's not going to fit for you. You're going to have to travel. And so as churches, how do we combat that? What we know is we need people to actually come in and be in the building. But if people are moving farther and further away and people are having more and more of a commute, what do we do? This hybrid thing, this virtual thing, it's great. We got cameras and lights and everything like that. We got everything looking good. But the reality of the matter is I think that people need to come in and have that physical touch. So what do we do? How do we combat that commute? Or do we just expect people to, commute? Look, you live far away. The church is important. You have to make that trip. You have to make that ride. Let's encourage everybody. Let's work some deals out with the car companies and encourage everybody to get hybrids. And maybe we can get some church discounts or something. But encourage everybody. You just want to drive in. Is that the answer? Is that is that how we make sure that we stay in community and in relationship and encourage people to show up once? Just show up once a week, but encourage them even more than that. Show up as many times as you can. What do we do? Oh, we got a comment. And the comment is, it seems that people want to live in very controlled environments, assuming that they can get away from issues and people that frighten them. They also want to be around people who they feel are like them or who they want to be like. Yeah, that's another one of the key issues that's working into this as well. So, all things equal, when you have money to buy a home and you can purchase it anywhere you want, where would you live? And for many people, I want to live out in a community that I know everything is the way that I like it to be, whether it be a gated community, whether it be a golf course community, whether it be a community where everybody has similar ideas, a community that has a strong homeowners association where we can focus in keep whoever we want out and make sure that everybody is on the same page and similar page. That's where it goes, that comment of being in a controlled environment, and make sure that they, if certain people frighten you, if certain situations frighten you, then you can get away from those. You can use your ability to purchase homes to try to do those things. Ironically enough, when you have communities like those, they're going to have a church probably near them in the community that they all go, those type of people go to, and they're not going to have an issue when it comes to relationships. They're not going to have an issue when it comes to community. They're only going to have an issue when they're trying to keep out folk that they want to keep out. But it's been a challenging time, as everyone knows, getting people just to come back to church. And one of the major challenges now, I believe, is that we are so spread apart. We have people who you now have the opportunity to get up and go. I know a couple of folk. When I say a couple, I don't mean two. I mean, I know some folk who, when this whole hybrid work from home thing, they packed up and they moved far. If you're in from one side of the country to the whole other side of the country. If you're in the top half of the country, moving all the way down to the south. If you're in the south, moving all the way up to the north. People moved far. And then you had the people who just moved far out. You lived in the city, you lived in the county, now you live out on the edge of the county. You live out there. You went from having city living to extreme country living, from the suburbs to the exurbs, as they call it. And so those are the challenges that pop up when you're talking about, all right, how do we be community? How do we bring people together? It's a tough one when you're sitting back and you have an hour commute to do anything. If I bring you in on Sunday and you come in on Sunday, that's going to be great. That's going to be awesome. You're here on Sunday to be able to worship together. But you're not able to get there on Saturday when we have, meetings or community events, or you're not going to be able to get there during the course of the week when we're deciding to, visit someone or feed at the shelter or do whatever we're going to do, pack bags in order to have for this event or that event. How do you participate in all of that when you have moved yourself so far out, so far away? The difficulty there, and so I don't have an answer other than the fact that's the way the society is moved. That is the way in the United States that it is moved now. Hit you with some of the stats. They said that over 30% of the population now has over a 50-mile daily commute. And when they're saying over an hour daily commute, and that's one way. And so if you're going to your place of work, you have an hour daily commute of 50 miles. Now let's be clear. Let's be clear. Let's say 50 miles, it's over an hour. You can imagine the people that live in urban areas or who work in a city, it's going to be much more than that when you're talking about going during rush hour. When you're going, if you're trying to be in the office at 9 or 8 o'clock, or you're trying to get up out of here at 5, at 6 and go home. 50 miles is way more than an hour. And so if that's, you're talking about 30% of the population now as that. That's a lot. That's a lot of driving. That's a lot of moving around. So how do we, it's hard to do the work. It's hard to do the work if it's hard to get to the church or to the building and be able to get to the building and be able to do certain things. If you show up on Sunday, you can't show up on Bible study night. Show up on Bible study night, you definitely can't show up to church school. You show up to church school, you definitely can't show up to any of the extra events on the weekend that they may have. You can't volunteer to be, an usher, or you definitely can't be, you know, you definitely can't be in the choir or anything like that, because that's. I mean, now we're talking about spending crazy amounts of time on the road, and then to others, it's crazy amounts of gas. So what's the solution? Is it just, we've all become hybrid with what we're doing. So for what we're doing right now, we've all become hybrid. You know, we have offerings on 3 times a week that are virtual. He, most churches have their virtual option when it comes to service, but that none of those help with building and bridging community. And so I think, and I'll say this: here's the only solution that I have to those who've moved away, farther away, and you're going to make that trek and you're going to make that travel time. That's okay. But I think each church has to make a big push with the people in their community, the local people around them. Each church has to do that. And so you have to have a good mix and a good combination of people who are far and people who are near. People who are far, may or may not be reliable to work as much as the people who are near, who can really put in the work, because they're not that far away. Because they can spend some time, and it's not, an hour commitment. For me to come to church and I want to spend an hour at the church, I'm basically going to spend an hour and 20 minutes because I have about a 20-minute commute. But the people who live an hour away, now to spend an hour at the church, now you're talking about a 2-hour commute. That's tough. That's tough. All right, we got a comment. Why, when you give your all, you get punished? Interesting comment. So that and it kind of fits in. The more you give, the more you get punished. Or so you give your all, and then sometimes you get punished. It's funny. On Sunday, what was said was basically, if you are not doing anything, if everything is going sweet and everything's going good in your life, that means you're not doing anything. People only mess with, so it depends on how you want to look at it. The evil one, the devil, or just people, they only mess with folk who's doing stuff. They don't mess with anybody who's not doing anything. And so the more that you do and the more that you give your all, the more you get, I wouldn't say punished, but I would say the more adversity you have to go through. Because that's what it is. Let's switch it out and put it in the world terms, or put it in the terms of people who think about somebody famous. Let's see who's famous. I can't think of anybody famous. Oh, Kevin Hart. Let's do that. Great comedian. He went from being just a regular comedian to being one of the most successful and famous comedians out here right now. Now, he gets a lot of criticism. A lot of people came at him. I remember at one point in time, he had gotten so famous, people that came, they started looking at past things that he's done and past comments that he's made. And then they were saying that he was anti this and anti that. And people just come at him all the time. And it's because you're doing something. When you start doing something and working towards something, you're going to get hate coming at you. You're going to get haters coming at you. And the same thing, I think, more so when you're with the church. It's you see people. It's funny, as soon as you start really doing stuff in the church, things will start going wrong in your life. Little silly stuff, and it'll just be coming at you. To kind of, I guess, the world, the evil one, whatever you want to call it, wants to see if they can break you. All right, you starting to do right. Let me see if I can break you real quick, or I can break that habit. And it happens all the time to all of us. We may not all talk about it. Some people try to, some people try to keep some of the stuff to themselves, or they just don't think about it. But it happens to all of us, where just crazy stuff just pops up in our life because we're doing right. And so, that's a good comment, but that's exactly how it is. Oh, good. Another comment. I believe that many of these issues that are occurring in our society today may eventually drive people back to church. They will need community support, and they will realize they do not have the power, strength, or intellect to control issues they are faced with in the world, they will begin to look for something or someone beyond themselves. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know, why go through life and go through the struggles of life by yourself when you have a whole community of people who want to go through things with you together, who want to be supported and be your support. So I don't understand why sometimes we choose to go through things by ourselves when we have the ability to have others right there with us. You know, right now we have a family at this church who was going through a situation where their housing situation is messed up and their job situation is messed up, and they're not even members of the church. And you know, we are helping them through the process, trying to support them through the process, so that they don't have to go through the struggle alone. They still got to go through the struggle, but you're in a situation of where they were able to meet some people or get together with a church and faith of people who want to help you through the process. So I don't understand why people would want to go through it alone. And so I think that comment hits it right on the head, that many of the issues will drive people back to church. And, you know, if the issue is bad enough, when we talk about that whole commute situation, the commute don't matter anymore. You know, I hope most people don't have to get into that situation, but at the end of the day, the commute's not going to matter. If I need 3 hours to get my healing, I'm going to take that 3 hours to get my healing, because we'll do that for the hospital, no matter where the hospital is. So I think, you know, we just got to make sure we're available. Another comment, think about the story of Job. And that's a great one. You know, if you don't know Job, the story of Job, anybody out there who doesn't know it, you know, you can look in the Bible in the book of Job. And it talks about Job. It talks about the fact that, you know, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything crazy. Just an honest man of God who was put through the test, put through the fire. And so it's and that kind of goes back to the comment. Sometimes it's not that you gave your all and you're getting punished. Sometimes you're just going through the fire just because that's just a part of life. And the great part about it was, and back to the comment, the last comment was, when you have to go through the fire, because all of us do. Nobody just has a sweet, rosy life. I don't care who you are. You can be a royal. You can be whatever. You can have all the money in the world. You can have all the success and fame. You're not going to have a sweet and perfect life. But the good part is when you go through it, you have the support of your faith community, your brothers and sisters in Christ, your church family, to be there with you. And not only that, you also have the playbook. You know, the Bible, the words of Jesus Christ, the teachings of Christ. You got the playbook. And it can help. And it can help you get through the process, get through the storm. It can help you through. And so I think that's one of the powerful things about Job. You know, just stay. If you know what I always get from Job, and I'm not a big fan of the story of Job, because I think it's just a horrible story. I mean, I get the point and I get everything, but it's just so heart wrenching for me to just listen to the story because. Or to read the story because of what it goes through. But I understand you got to stay committed. Like if you believe and you're gonna have faith, you gotta work your way through, and you're gonna come out on the other end. Everything's not gonna be all perfect on the other end, and that's the part about Job. You know, you don't get back everything that you've lost. You can get a replacement, but it's not the same thing. But you're gonna come out on the other end. God's gonna bring you through. You know. And that's the whole thing. You're holding on to God's hand and you're just trying to see whether or not you're going to let it go. And if you don't let it go, you're going to be brought through. So, yeah, that's a good one. When you know that it's not. I don't want to say punishment, because I know that was the word that was used. I just want to challenges, difficulties, significant, and I don't want to downplay it. These challenges are significant. Many times life or death. What we have is the community, the faith community, to help us through, and our commitment to Christ. I hope that hits both of the comments. You know, I hope that really hits on both of those. But you know, that's our thing. And that's our thing today. That's what we're looking at. The challenge of the fact that we have so many people that's going to be so far away, and they have to make a stronger commitment in order to be community now. You have to be really committed, and I think that's one of the beautiful parts about what we got going on here. And I'm pivoting a little bit. We talked about the fact that people are going to be far away and they have to commute. You may not be able to make it into your church. You come in there on Sunday, but you may not be able to make it into your church on for midweek service. You may not be able to make it in for the community programs. But what we say here, and what I encourage everyone out there to do, is if you can't make it in, or somebody who maybe like, man, my church is like far, and I can't just be going in there all the time and doing this and doing that and helping out. Then you need a partner with a local church that you can do those things with. So this may be my church that I go to. That's the church that I'm committed to, the pastor that I am committed to, the people who I'm committed to. But if on Saturday I can't make it in because it's just too far, or I got other stuff going on, then I also need to be able to participate with some other churches. And I also need to be community with some other people. And so when we talk here about partnership, it's partnership because there's things that you want to do that you may not be able to do at your church. But it's also, I think, in this new environment, partnership because if your church is far, that should not be an excuse not to do the work. So find you somebody closer that you can do the work with, and you can still be in community and still be a part of the church that you're a part of, or the ministry that you're a part of. Another good comment. Remember to always pray. Good times or bad times, pray. Yeah, and that circles back to the previous comment. Prayer is important. Before this program comes on every day, every Tuesday from 7 to 7:45, we have prayer. And that's community prayer. That's us and all in the ministry, all of us praying at the same time. And that's one of those scheduled reminders to pray. And what I think is important about that is that all of us in our lives need to have that scheduled time to pray. You should be praying all the time. Pray when something's good, pray when something's bad, but you have to have that dedicated time to pray. You have the dedicated time to work out, and the people who have dedicated time to work out, they're in great shape. You got dedicated time, you go to work. That's why you get a bunch of money at your job. You have a dedicated time to do other things. Whatever you dedicate time to and you're serious about, it's going to grow. And so I gotta say, let's dedicate time to prayer, so that we can talk about the things that are going on, and it can help us through life. But I think we need to schedule out that time and dedicate that time every day. And I'm not talking about just the time right before you go to bed or the time right before you eat, but dedicated time. Like if you're going to wake up in the morning, maybe dedicate 10 minutes at the beginning of my day that I'm 15 minutes, whatever your time is going to be. But this is going to be my prayer time, and I make sure that I pray, and I bring good and bad before the Lord. And so that when things happen, it's not like, all right, now I gotta pray. I've been praying this whole time. Now let's discuss what I need at this moment. Let's discuss this situation. So I love that comment. Absolutely great. Absolutely great. All right, well, we're at our time. This was good. This was excellent. I appreciate the comments that came in. Appreciate all the comments. This was really good. So I just, as we meet people and as people talk about their commutes, especially for us here, we'll remind everybody out there, if you want to partner, come partner with us here tomorrow. When we're talking to other people and they're talking about how far away their home church is, let them know that they can come partner. Come partner with Amani, or partner with other churches. Anybody who can't get to your church, if you feel like it's too far, if it's too much of a time commitment with these far travel, partner with somebody a little closer. Because do not let travel time, your commute, be the reason that you can't do the work. All right. Well, as a reminder, we already talked about it, but on Tuesdays, at 7. From 7 to 7:45, we have prayer, community prayer, where we pray here. Join us. You don't have to pray the whole time. Just at some point between that time, please pray. At 8 o'clock, of course, we have our program here on Thursdays. Thursday Thirst, our weekly Bible study at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here on Facebook and YouTube. Also, you can come in person. And on Sunday, definitely come in person if you can, if you're in the area, at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Here we have service, worship service, Facebook and YouTube as well. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for all the comments. Please join us again. Remember, this is Impact 2024. We're here every single week. All right. Have a good one.